Hey guys, so a few years ago I would have never made a video about Peter Pettigrew. He was my most despised fictional character ever, still is honestly, because the fact that he's a traitor and he was responsible for James and Lily's deaths and just everything in the books involving him made me hate him even more than Bellatrix or Voldemort or anyone else in Harry Potter or any other fictional universe for that matter. What made me hate him so much though, I think revolved a lot around the fact that he seemed so cowardly and useless and couldn't do anything, and yet he still managed to be a traitor and do all of these horrible things, and the fact that he was seemingly so weak and did all of that made me hate him even more. Then a couple years ago I started realizing that I wasn't really giving him enough credit. He really isn't all that weak or cowardly or anything else that I was labeling him as. He still to this day remains one of my least favorite fictional characters ever, but I've started to realize a lot of things about him that I never really gave much thought before. First of all, everyone in the books knew that there was a traitor and none of them suspected that it was Peter, and if you really think about that, it really doesn't make much sense. Now, I probably would have thought the same thing because he wasn't all that remarkable. Of all of the people, he was the least likely. Honestly though, I don't even think they were giving him enough credit because he was a Gryffindor, and I think a lot of people overlooked that. Maybe he was sorted into the wrong house or something, but I don't even think that's possible, quite honestly. I don't think that the sorting hat can sort someone into the wrong house, meaning that Peter Pettigrew is put in Gryffindor and has to, at least to some degree, be a courageous person and a brave person. And I have a feeling that everyone, all of the characters, felt like he had been sorted into the wrong house, and they all kind of took that for granted almost, that he had been sorted into the wrong house and that maybe he really wasn't all that brave, when in reality, like I said, I don't think that's possible. He has to, at somewhere in him, I think him being a traitor proves that he has some ounce of bravery, because as much in Prisoner of Azkaban, when Sirius and Remus corner him, he starts pleading with them because Voldemort is scary. Becoming a traitor takes a lot of bravery. Even if he said he was doing it out of cowardliness and whatnot, still doing that takes bravery, and that's why I don't think that he was sorted into the wrong house. And I think a lot of the characters took that for granted in Harry Potter. I read a lot of Marauder era fanfiction, and in all of the fanfiction, Peter seems to be this really cowardly character. He's scared of everything, and I really don't think that's accurate. I'm pretty sure he was a pretty normal guy at Hogwarts. Sure, he was best friends with Sirius and James, and I think they overshadowed him a lot since they were more outgoing and probably more popular and all of that, and Peter was just kind of maybe popular by default because he was friends with them. I think the reason why so many characters underestimated him is because they were thinking of him in comparison to James and Sirius and even Remus. You get the idea that they were more talented than he was, so his own talents were kind of overlooked a lot, but that doesn't mean he didn't have any, it's just that they were less noticeable than the other threes. And I think that is where a lot of that comes from, and why I think that a lot of his character traits, like being fearful or whatnot, is way exaggerated, because you're looking at him in comparison to the other Marauders. Another thing that I think is way exaggerated is his incompetency with magic. Everyone seems to think, especially at least in fanfiction that I've read, he seems to be so incompetent when it comes to every type of magic. He's not good at anything. He barely gets by in school. He has a lot of help from the other Marauders on his schoolwork, and I really don't think that's accurate. There's no really basis for that in the books. The only really schoolwork you see him doing is the flashback, Snape's Forced Memory, where they're having the owls, but that really doesn't show how well he did in school, and I really don't think he was that incompetent. And I think the main defense for him not being that bad at school is the fact that he became an animagus at a young age. And yeah, he had help from the other two, like James and Sirius, but he still did it, and I don't think that's something that most people could do. So he obviously had some talent otherwise he wouldn't have been able to do it, no matter, because you can only have so much help. It's magic. He obviously has to have some skill on his own to do that, and he did it at a really young age, and I think that really shows that he's not as bad at magic as he's often portrayed as being. Don't get me wrong, I still hate him, for he did a lot of horrible things. If anything, realizing this made me hate him even more, because before I just kind of hated him because he did all these horrible things, but he seemed like he just did it because he felt like he had to, because Voldemort courted him or something. I don't even know what I thought. I think he was a lot smarter than I gave him credit for, and a lot braver than I gave him credit for, and that just kind of makes me hate him even more, because it means that he thought out being a traitor a lot more. And I just think that makes him even a far more interesting character than he had been otherwise, and I think he is portrayed wrongly by a lot of people, especially fanfiction writers, since I read a lot of fanfiction. And I really think that kind of sucks, because Peter's a really boring character in most of the fanfiction I read, because he does absolutely nothing until suddenly for some reason he becomes a traitor, and I really don't think that's accurate. He's a normal person, and he was probably just as interesting as the other Marauders, and him becoming a traitor is probably a lot more complicated than is often thought of. Like, I just think he has a lot of skills that people overlook, and that make him a lot more interesting and a lot more complicated of a character. So now that I've realized all this, I find him a lot more intriguing. I still hate him probably even more than I did before. And I just kind of wanted to talk about that, because I've thought about that a lot over the past couple of years. Like, it was a realization that really hit me hard, and I can't even remember what caused me to start thinking about it. But I just suddenly realized that Peter Pettigrew was a lot different than what I thought he was, and I've given it a lot of thought over the years, and I wanted to talk about it. I might do this with other Harry Potter characters, like make videos talking about them, but I don't know if it'd be the same, because, like, I don't feel as if there's another Harry Potter character that's, like, not portrayed correctly as much as Peter is, and I wanted to talk about that. So, yeah, I think that's all. I will see you guys later. Bye.